Good morning, students. Yesterday we were discussing about the structure of nephron. So we talked about the individual segments of nephron. Today we are going to combine all the segments of nephron in one single diagram, and we will see how blood flow is taking place. So I am making the complete diagram. First I am going to make a margin, a central line, and remember, this line is the upper portion is showing the cortex region. Remember the cortex region, the region that is present near to the renal capsule and that is dark in color, and the interior is the lighter section, that is medulla. So this is the cortex region and this is the medulla region. So with the help of this we can easily show that which part of nephron is lying in the cortex region and which part is going to lie in the medullary region. So if we see the Bowman capsule, this Bowman capsule is going to lie in cortex region, and from here the PCT is arising. The proximal convoluted tubule. This is our descending limb. The thick and thin segments. Here is loop of Henle. The thin segment of ascending limb. Later on I will label these parts. The thick segment. And here it is going to open into DCT. And this DCT is finally going to open into the collecting duct. And this collecting duct is later going to form the duct of Purkinje. Now, this is how the renal, or you can say nephron, is present. Label these parts. This one is the cup-shaped structure is Bowman capsule. This is PCT. Again, descending limb. And descending limb means thick segment, and this is thin segment. The loop of Henle, here is the ascending limb. The thin segment of ascending limb, thick segment of ascending limb. This is the DCT. This is the junctional tubule, and this is the collecting duct that is carrying the DCT from different nephrons. Now if we talk about the blood supply, this is how nephron is present. These two regions, the PCT and DCT, are going to lie in the cortex region, and the loop of Henle is going to lie in the medullary region. Now if we talk about the blood supply, so here the dorsal aorta is going to carry the blood, and this dorsal aorta is going to give rise to renal artery, and from renal artery, arteriole is going to move. This can move in another one, and this arteriole is going to form a network of capillaries, and this network of capillaries we are calling it as glomerulus. So over here dorsal aorta is coming, carrying the impure blood. This dorsal aorta is giving rise to renal artery. The renal artery is going to divide into arterioles, and the arteriole that is entering into the Bowman capsule is the afferent arteriole. Here it is going to form a tuft of capillaries, and this is the glomerulus. And the portion that is emerging out from here. This is the efferent arteriole. So blood is coming like this, and after filtration it is going from here. Now if we see this afferent arteriole, this afferent arteriole from here is going to divide into capillaries, and these capillaries are known as peritubular capillaries. These peritubular capillaries are going to surround the PCT, means they are present all over around the PCTs, and they are also going to surround the DCT. So all over here a network of capillaries is present, and that is giving rise to these are known as peritubular capillaries. So here peritubular capillaries are present. Capillary network. This peritubular capillary network from here, it is giving rise to vasa rectum, and this vasa recta is going to surround the loop of Henle. So from here branching is done, and it is going to give rise to vasa recta that is going to surround the loop of Henle, and this vasa recta is going to form a, this is the descending capillary and ascending capillary. So this is what vasa recta. So vasa recta is going to arise from these peritubular networks, and here they are joined, and a network of capillaries is formed from here. This is how they are present. They are moving all around, and finally they are coming out to form the venules. These venules are giving rise to renal vein, and finally the renal vein is going to enter this blood into the inferior vena cava. So here venules are going to form, giving rise to renal vein, and finally it will pour or all the blood is going to enter into the inferior vena cava. So let's understand this whole blood supply in form of a flow chart in a sequence. I am writing down this everything in form of sequence to make you better understand how the things are functioning. So if start from the blood supply that is coming, the starting point is dorsal aorta, that is going to carry the blood. This dorsal aorta is giving rise to renal artery. This renal artery is dividing into arterioles. The afferent arteriole is going to enter into the Bowman capsule. There it is going to form the glomerulus. From glomerulus, the efferent arteriole is coming out. This efferent arteriole is dividing into peritubular capillary network, and this peritubular capillary network is going to surround the PCT and DCT, proximal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubules. From this peritubular network is arising the vasa recta, and this vasa recta is going to surround the loop of Henle. It is having again two type of capillaries, the descending capillaries and the ascending capillary. Now the next blood vessels that are combining together are going to form the venules. After absorption, these venules are joining to form the renal, vein, and this renal vein is going to pour it into the inferior vena cava. This is how the whole thing is functioning. The blood supply to the kidneys and blood is coming out from the kidneys. Next is a juxtaglomerulus apparatus. What this juxtaglomerular apparatus means. So the next topic is juxtaglomerulus apparatus. How this juxtaglomerulus apparatus is formed and what are its components. We are going to talk about the afferent and efferent arterioles. The smooth muscles of afferent and efferent. First I am talking about everything, then I will show it in form of a diagram. So the juxtaglomerular cells are formed by smooth muscles of afferent and efferent arteriole. These smooth muscles that are near to the Bowman capsule, they are going to swell, their size will increase and they will be known as juxtaglomerulus cells. These cells are going to secrete an enzyme and this enzyme behaves as a hormone and that is renin. There is difference between the renin that is synthesized in the gastric juice in stomach and this renin, that is RENIN and this is RENIN. So it is an enzyme that is going to behave as a hormone and it is produced by the kidney cells. Remember this difference between these two, renin. So the juxtaglomerular cells are going to secrete the renin. What this renin is going to do, the renin is going to activate angiotensinogen into angiotensin. Why there is activation of angiotensinogen into angiotensin is required? Because it is now going to increase the blood pressure. It is helping in increasing the blood pressure. Another function of this angiotensinogen is it is activating the adrenal medulla to secrete aldosterone. And this aldosterone is helping the DCT. It is activating the DCT to absorb sodium ions and the collecting duct is going to absorb the water. Means conservation of water will be there, more water will be absorbed. If more water will be absorbed, again the blood pressure is going to increase. So all this structure is going to maintain the body fluids in our blood. I am repeating it again. The cells that are the cells of afferent and efferent arterioles, the smooth muscle cells, they are going to swell, increase in their size, or that cells are now known as juxtaglomerulus cells. They are going to secrete renin. This renin is going to activate angiotensinogen into angiotensin, which is going to increase the blood pressure. It is also activating or stimulating the adrenal medulla to secrete aldosterone, which finally helps the DCT or activates the DCT to absorb sodium ions and collecting duct to absorb the water. This is first component of juxtaglomerular apparatus. So first component is juxtaglomerulus cells. The second component is macula densa. The first component is juxtaglomerulus cells that are formed by the smooth muscles of afferent and efferent arteriole. The second one is macula densa. These macula densa are formed by the epithelium of DCT. Epithelial cells of DCT. See, nephron is present in coiled form. So some portion of the DCT comes in contact with the Bowman capsule. And the cells that are coming in contact with the Bowman capsule, these cells will be more dense. There will be more number of cells and they becomes columnar as compared to rest of the cells were cuboidal. Yesterday we talked about the cells that are present in DCT are cuboidal, but the cells that are coming near to the Bowman capsule will become columnar. They will become more dense and these cells are known as macula densa. What they are functioning? They are acting as a chemoreceptor. They are acting as chemoreceptor for juxtaglomerulus cells. Means what type of situation is there? There is increase or decrease of blood fluids, that will be done by this macula densa. The third component of this apparatus is Lacus cells. And where these Lacus cells will be present? These are going to present in the space that is going to form between this DCT and the Bowman capsule. And they are giving a lace-like appearance. That's why they are known as Lacus cells and their functions are not known. So we are going to represent these juxtaglomerular cells, macula densa and Lacus cells in a diagram. I am going to make a, if you remember the structure, this is Bowman capsule. From here, the afferent arteriole is coming. Here a network of capillaries will be formed and from here efferent arteriole is moving out. Simply I am not going to get you confused between all the other structures. Now the smooth muscle cells that are far away, they are like this, but that are present near to this region, they are going to swell, increase in their size, and these are going to behave as the juxtaglomerular cells. That's what I was saying. The smooth muscles are going to modify and they are going to form the juxtaglomerular cells, and these cells are going to produce the renin. Now the DCT that is coming over here near the Bowman capsule. So I am showing the DCT. This is the portion of DCT and the epithelial cells that are lying in the proximity with this, they become more dense, become columnar. The rest of the cell are again cuboidal and less dense, and the cells that are present over here, this is the part of DCT that is coming in contact, and now these cells are known as macula densa, which are acting as a chemoreceptor. And the Lacus cells, they are going to present over here. The space that is going to arise between this DCT and the glomerulus, and these are known as the Lacus cells. This is the juxtaglomerulus apparatus that is present over here. And this juxtaglomerulus apparatus is responsible for maintaining the blood pressure. It is helping in the absorption of salts and water from the nephrons. So this is how the juxtaglomerulus apparatus is there. Now we are going to discuss about the types of nephrons. Two types of nephrons are present. The two types are juxtamedullary nephrons and cortical nephrons. These juxtamedullary nephrons, they are 15% of the total nephrons that are present. How we can differentiate between these cortical nephrons are 85% of the total nephrons that are present. Now these juxtamedullary nephrons, the upper part, the Bowman capsule is present inside, deep inside the cortex. There is long loop of Henle that is going to lie deep in the medulla, and they are having vasa recta. But if we see the cortical nephrons, they are going to lie in the upper cortex portion, and very short loop of Henle is there. So I am writing their characteristics, then I will draw a diagram to show what is juxtaglomerular nephrons. 15% are there. Then their upper parts, Bowman capsule lies in inner part of cortex. There is long loop of Henle, means renal tubule is long, and that is lying deep into medulla. Vasa recta is present, and they are helping in more absorption of water. If we see the cortical nephrons, 85% of the total nephrons are cortical nephrons. They are lying in the outer cortex. There is very short loop of Henle and no vasa recta is present. These are two types of juxtamedullary and cortical nephrons. So if we see these nephrons, again we have to draw a distinction showing cortex and medulla. The upper portion is this cortex region and this is this medulla region. So if I talk about here I am showing the juxtamedullary nephron and over here the cortical nephron. If we see, then you can say most of the part is going to lie there is a long loop of Henle and that is lying into the medulla. The DCT is going to combine with the urine collecting duct. This is how it is going to be present. But if we show a cortical nephron, over here I said vasa recta is present. That means afferent arteriole is entering, the glomerulus is going to form, the efferent arteriole is coming out, peritubular capillaries will be present. They are going to surround the complete section, and over here the vasa recta is present. The ascending and descending limbs are going to present. So complete blood capillaries are going to surround this region. But if we see this cortical nephron, the majority of the structures are going to present in the cortex region. This is the PCT. Some portion is lying the loop of Henle. Let me show on this side so that it is going to enter into the urine collecting duct, and the DCT will be there, that is going to combine. And over here, if we see the blood supply, glomerulus is going to form, and only the peritubular capillaries are present that are going to surround this region, and no vasa recta is going to present. So this is the cortical nephron, that is small, having a small loop of Henle, mostly lying in the cortex region, and this is the juxtaglomerulary nephron, that is small, having a long loop of Henle, and it is lying in cortex and medullary region both. This is the difference between them. So now we are going to discuss about the next topic, that is the net filtration pressure. Earlier I told you that the function of glomerulus is filtration. The pressure that is present in the arteriole, the afferent arteriole, is having a pressure of 100 mm of Hg. This is the blood pressure that is present in the afferent arteriole. Now the first pressure which we are going to discuss is glomerulus hydrostatic, glomerulus blood hydrostatic pressure. This is showing the pressure that is present inside the glomerulus. So from afferent arteriole, blood is going to enter into the capillaries, and the pressure that is remaining in the glomerulus is 60 mm of Hg. This much pressure is present inside the glomerulus. The second pressure, now there are two negative pressures that are affecting the filtration, and the first one out of them is the blood colloidal osmotic pressure. Blood colloidal osmotic pressure. What is this blood colloidal osmotic pressure? This is because of the plasma proteins. In the filtrate, or in the glomerulus, plasma proteins are there. These plasma proteins are not going to filter out, but they are reducing, they are functioning as a negative factor in the filtration process. They are working in opposite direction to prevent the filtration. So because of the pressure exerted by these plasma proteins, the blood colloidal osmotic pressure is 32 mm of Hg, and that is a opposite pressure. Now the third pressure is again the capsular hydrostatic pressure. This capsular hydrostatic pressure is again a negative pressure that is applied by the filtrate. In Bowman capsule, from glomerulus the filtrate is coming in Bowman capsule, and this filtrate is again applying a pressure in opposite direction to prevent the filtration, and that is about 18 mm of Hg. So what comes, the net filtration rate that comes is, we are having the glomerulus hydrostatic pressure minus, we are going to reduce this negative pressure from here, that is 32 plus 18 mm of Hg. So 60 minus 50 is, we are getting 10 mm of Hg. So this much, by the help of this much pressure, the filtration process is done inside the glomerulus. That's, let me represent this with the help of diagram also, so that you can better understand. The Bowman capsule is here, and from here the Compacity is arising. I am making only this much section. So over here the glomerulus is present. Let me make it more deep. The glomerulus is present, so capillaries are present over here. Here this afferent arteriole is having 100 mm of Hg, and when it is coming to this glomerulus, here the hydrostatic pressure is 60 mm of Hg. These are positive, they are helping in filtration. Now the proteins, the plasma proteins that are present over here, these plasma proteins are inhibiting, they are applying a pressure that is reducing the filtration, and this is our blood colloidal pressure, osmotic pressure, and that will be, suppose we are saying this is applying in this direction, the glomerulus is hydrostatic pressure is applied in this direction, this is negative, so applied in reverse direction, and that is 32 mm of Hg. The capsular hydrostatic pressure that is provided by the filtrate that is coming in this Bowman capsule, and this is also acting in the reverse direction, so this is also a negative one, and it will be again 18 mm of Hg. So these are two negative pressures, and by subtracting these negative pressures, the net filtration pressure that is coming is 10 mm of Hg.